Got this really interesting life. I've been hearing bits and pieces over, and we started talking a little bit before the episode. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you're from St. Louis, but tell us where you're from. Give us a little bit about your background and a little bit about your testimony.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me. It's been a few months since I've been like behind a microphone with somebody else, so I'm like, okay, getting back in the groove. So yes, born and raised in St. Louis. I love it here. It's interesting. Yeah. So born in St. Louis City, West St. Louis.
What part of West St. Louis when you say that?
Yeah, so on a street called Cabany.
Okay.
Between like Delmar and Page, Kings Highway and Union.
Okay.
So my brother went to Soldan. I went to Clark. Like
I know those well. I used to pick up kids at Soldan.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. That's my stomping ground. We still have our family home there. Grew up with my great-grandparents. So
okay.
I'm the youngest of three. My sister is 5 years older. My brother is 2 years older. My great-grandparents got us. We were 5, 3, and 6 weeks.
Wow.
And they were 67 and 77.
And they raised you, hey?
3 kids under 5, yep.
That's crazy.
Yep. Didn't miss a beat. My mother spent 17 years in prison.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my father, probably 10 years in and out.
Okay.
So
17 years in prison, though. That's
it's a lot.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that's your whole life.
That is my entire life. So, I mean, I have vague memories of her as a child before she went to prison. She dropped us off before all of that. I mean, lots of drugs and things like that with her and my father. So,
okay.
I think her original charge was armed robbery.
Mm.
There was a moment where, and you can probably find an article online where she escaped from it was a small municipality in North County. Kinlock.
Okay.
Yeah. So she was something else. But
the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
It doesn't. Just
in a positive direction, right?
And she always said that. She would always say, "You have the best parts of me." It took me a long time to like understand what that meant, and I really didn't get it until after she passed. I'm like, and I would talk to people that she was incarcerated with, and I'm like, she wasn't lying. Like I do. Like she had a spirit that was kind. It's just the environment was a little sketchy. So she dropped us off with.
Did she grow up in St. Louis too?
She did. Born and raised in University City.
Okay.
Her and my father. I think they both went to U City. Yeah. So
and he did 10 years, you said.
Yeah, in and out. It wasn't 10 consecutive, but I mean, I always remember he was there, and then I remember him being there, being in and out of the house more than she. Hers was that 17 years consecutive, and my father was kind of.
Did you ever establish relationships with him afterwards?
Yeah, that's interesting. So my father, yes, because when he really started to lay a foundation for himself, got clean, started working. So I got to see him. He started to build a relationship with my kids. He was doing really well for a while. A few years ago, he did relapse, but he's clean now again. So I'm closer with my father, which I did find out is not my actual father. Found that out recently, so that was mind-boggling. But we're pretty.
It may not be surprising though. I mean, given the fact that your mom was a drug user, right? I mean, that kind of goes with the territory down there.
Yes.
Yep.
So there was a whole story behind it because I was actually put up for adoption because he wasn't my father, super abusive to my mom. So it's a long story, but. We're pretty close. Yeah, I just talked to him on Father's Day. Extremely proud of the progress that he's made. He's doing really well considering the life that he had.
Yeah.
My mother. So my aunt would take us to see my mother maybe once a year. So we would always go up. She was in Chillicothe, Missouri.
Okay.
We would go up and we would see her, and I thought she was the best. Even children just love their mothers regardless of anything. Like her not being there, I didn't understand. And I just loved her, and I couldn't wait until she got home. I thought she was the most beautiful. So she would write us letters and things like that. So she did the best that she could. She always had. I mean, if nothing else, she had a man knocking on our door, dropping us stuff off. It was always somebody different, but she made sure we were good.
Oh, that's good.
When she got out, I just had my second daughter. I had these expectations. I had this vision built up of what it meant to have my mother back, and she couldn't live up to that. So I remember those first few years, and I would call her and be like, "Hey, the girls and I, we want to come by, we want to hang out." And she's like, "I'm busy," or "I'm not in town," or and the girls would be sick, and when other my mom friends, they would be sick, or the kids would be sick, and their moms would be there to pick them up, and I'm like, man, like I want that. I want my mom to pick up my kids so I don't have to take off work. And there was so much that I wanted from her, and there was this resentment I started to build towards her, and it wasn't good for a long time. But then I started to realize that, you don't even know how this woman became who she is. You're expecting something from her that she may not even have.
Or no. I mean, sometimes we think that they know these things, and you find out, I mean, 17 years in jail. What role model did she have to see as mom? And you don't know how even your grandma, but things have changed. I mean, what a mom was 20 years ago is different than it is today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I went through this process where I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Like, this is killing you. It's destroying you. You got this anger inside of you. Like, how did you become the hot mess that you were? Can you, and then you went through this transformation and understanding, and you loved yourself, and you were compassionate and patient with yourself. Can you extend that to her? And so I changed my perspective of, that relationship. And I'm like, okay, I just kind of want to know who you are. I just kind of want to know how you became the person that you are. And so she started telling me these stories her mother was schizophrenic. I mean, one day she was fine, and one day she just snapped and was not herself. And so now my mother doesn't have a mother, and she has to be the caretaker for her mother. There was a lot of abuse with family members towards my mother. She didn't have what I needed. Nobody gave her the love that I was expecting her to give me.
Right.
She didn't know how to do that. It's like going to a water fountain and expecting Skittles to pop out and being disappointed every time. It's like, that's not fair.
Right.
And so at that moment, I'm just going to love you where you are. I get it. I get how you became this person. I'm so sorry that you had to live through that. And I'm just going to love you where you are. And so after going through that process, I was able to just kind of talk to her and be there for her. Unfortunately, 2 years ago, I got a call saying, your mother's here. You're listed as her emergency contact. Her liver's completely shot. Like, we've intubated her. She's probably not going to make it. I need you to come and figure it out. So did that. I got to be with her as she passed, and I got to talk with her. And it was important for me to be there to let her know, like, I love you. You didn't fail. Like, she had this thing where she felt like she did fail us, and we didn't care about her. And I'm just like, that's not true. And so to be able to transition with her and just kind of let her know, like, if you don't leave this place knowing nothing else, like, you didn't. And I love you, and I'm with you. And it was.
Hopefully she saw it through your actions too in those last days.
Yes.
I mean, we always tell people, everybody says I only want one kid and be done. But I go, when you're on your deathbed, you want to be surrounded by your loved ones.
Yeah.
And to be surrounded by someone who's speaking to you and telling you they love you and care about you, those are the things you want to have as you leave this place.
It was incredible. And I got to eulogize her, and I got to remind my siblings that, like, she really loved us the best that she could. Like, her letters, her gifts, like, that was her wanting to be there with us, and she couldn't be. And it was a gift. It was a gift. So So she dropped us off at our grandparents. Our grandparents did the best that they could with us. But imagine having 3 kids under 5 at 67 and 77. It was a struggle. So for them, it was, we have to keep these kids fed. They did the best that they could. Every now and then we would have vacations with our extended family, and it was tough.
Right.
My sister was traumatized. She spent the most time with my parents. So when we talk about environment and investing in those kids early and brain development, like, you can see the difference in the results of my sister spending 5 years with my parents, neglect, abuse, all kind of stuff. My brother spending 3 years, and me only having to be there actually no time, because I went from the hospital to my grandparents' house.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
There's a massive difference in our lives. My sister she's struggling with alcohol addiction. We all struggle with that at some point. She's Section 8, couple of kids. It's just the environment created her, and she didn't get the help she needed. My brother was there for 3 years. He's not quite where she is, but there's a huge difference. And so I'm grateful. I didn't understand why my journey was the way that it was, and now I'm extremely grateful.
Wow.
So my grandparents did the best that they could, but they couldn't pour into us the way that maybe younger parents could. So my grandfather was old, my great-grandfather. I mean, he passed when I was 15, and that was that stage where I needed male validation, and I needed a father, and I needed all of that, and I didn't have it. And so that's where it kind of shifted.
Yeah, you probably saw that in a relationship, right? And so you sought it out. Yeah, that's not an uncommon thing. When you don't have a male presence in your house consistent, even if there's somebody in the house, but they're not consistent, and they don't model and build into there, you find a lot of women will go high school, college, go find the first male that gives them attention, shows them the kind of male traits that they think they want. And of course, you don't know, because you don't know really what you're looking for. An interesting thing about people who get married, a lot of times, if you've had both, the son will usually marry somebody who's like his mom.
Yep.
And the daughter will marry somebody like her dad. Doesn't mean they're going to be spitting images, but there'll be traits that are very similar. Yeah,
that's what I did. So with my marriage, I mean, my relationship mirrored my grandparents. My grandmother, she was a savage. Like, she ran the show. Like, everything. She was very masculine. My grandfather was very passive, very quiet. He just kind of let her do her thing. My ex-husband, same. I mean, even our birthdays were similar. Like, he was born in December. My grandfather was born in December. My grandmother's October. I'm October. Like.
Wow.
It was, I repeated what I saw. It was wild to think about. And so, they did the best that they could. But at that pivotal moment, and we'll talk about that later, because that looking at the dynamic of my family is part of the reason I'm so passionate about politics or culture, or Black culture and things like that, because there are some things, not even just Black culture in general, when we talk about fatherlessness and the impact and what that looks like on teen pregnancy and the dropout rate and drugs and incarceration. Like, it's huge. Oh,
it is it's the number one epidemic in our country.
Yes.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't understand how, like, all the social programs were designed around that.
To that now.
And we can, and then you go down to how it became a mainstay in America. We had no fault divorce, another thing, and then all that leads to today, where we have record amount of divorces, record amount of kids with only one parent. We had a episode a while back called Wild at Heart, where we were talking about the masculinity issue in America, and no wonder. Little boys want to be girls now because there's not masculine men showing them, we need more licenses because men aren't taking their sons out to go learn how to hunt, how to fish, how to, do the things that we used to learn from our dads or our grandfathers.
The things we're designed to do intrinsically as men. You're the hunters, you're the protectors, you're the providers. Like, those are things. You have testosterone and it needs to be managed. You need to know how to manage that. And your father is you're supposed to be roughhousing. I'm going to wrestle. We're going to get that aggression out. Like,
yeah, exactly. I do have my boys all the time. We get into wrestling things, and they're so much more aggressive than girls, right? I mean, I've got 4 girls, 2 boys. My older 4 girls, and all princesses. But my boys, first holes in the house and all the stuff like that. I mean, they just, they're constantly at each other.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man.
Balance it out with allowing them to get that out at home in a safe space where they're not out fighting or beating up women or. Yeah, because at home we can get that out and we can manage it. Like, there's so much missing. So we talked about the welfare system. So 15. I'm out. My grandparents are, they're home, they're old, they're asleep. I'm in the streets. Like,
okay.
I meet this guy. He's 21. I'm 15.
Wow.
Yeah, already bad news. Bad news. I'm like, you don't realize it. And I mean, a lot of that I didn't realize until I have a 15-year-old daughter now, and I'm like, imagine, like.
No, I can't. I got a 15-year-old too, and
I'm going to prison if any of those scenarios pop up like they did in my life. Like, I'm shooting first, ask question later. Like, so at 15, like, I'm so vulnerable and I'm so naive. And so I'm ripe for the picking and didn't even realize it. So meet this 21-year-old. We start this relationship. 16, I'm pregnant. 15, I'm pregnant.
Wow.
Had an abortion. 17, pregnant again. That's my 15-year-old daughter.
Okay.
So lots of abuse.